Today I'm going to be going over some of my earliest PSA submissions from back in 2017 and what those cards, the pop population, and the values look like today. If you guys aren't aware, I got into Pokemon actually when it first came out, and there was a kind of like a table in the middle of my mall. That's actually where I started picking up my first Pokemon packs. Then I got into Yu-Gi-Oh! A couple years later. And then, went to college, all of that, started a career. And then in 2014, I got kind of back into Pokemon, back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Back into collecting somewhat. And then in 2017, so in about 2015, 2016-ish, I stepped away for a little bit. And then when Shining Legends came out in 2017, I really got back into it. So I got back in with kind of like the XY set, XY base, with the Kalos starter sets. And then kind of leading into Shining Legends was a big thing for me. And I ended up getting a PSA membership at that time. I was able to accumulate just by going to Walmart. I was able to amass a full Shining Legends set. And so I decided to get PSA membership and submit those to PSA along with some other cards I had and kind of build out a collection. Well, what ended up happening several months after I got those returns in 2018, my home actually got hit with a microburst, which is basically the equivalent of a tornado, but it's straight line winds versus circular winds. And I lost pretty much everything. But thanks to PSA's online system, I'm able to go back and kind of revisit the cards that I got graded at that time. I can actually pull up the cert numbers and I can kind of see what their values are on those cards. So today we're going to go over what were my two first submissions. These are all cards that I ended up losing, but they were some phenomenal cards. And cards, honestly, like I'm trying to hopefully pull these in the future and get them graded and kind of amass a Shining Legends set again. However, these cards are now super expensive. So back in 2017 and up until recently, whenever you got a PSA membership, you got basically 15 free submission vouchers. And so my first submission here is going to be 15 cards, and they were all basically free to submit. And to kind of give you an idea of turnaround times compared to now, so I actually submitted this on November 14th, 2017. And you can see that that's actually when they received the order. And they completed it on December 11th. So it was essentially a 1 month turnaround was all it took back then. This is obviously kind of in the downtime of Pokemon. But we're going to take a look at what these grades were. Now, to kind of give you an idea of a lot of what you're going to see here, these were pulled from Shining Legends Elite Trainer boxes and also the Ultra Premium collection. This was a time you could go into Walmart and they would just have Shining Legends Ultra Premium collections sitting on the bottom of the shelves, and you could just buy it in store. Obviously, times are a lot different now, but that's kind of how it was. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to pull up this first one. So this was a Shining Lugia that was actually a promo from the Super Premium collection. And you can see this got a Gem Mint 10. And if we take a look at it, like these values are going to be super depressing to me just because of, knowing how much I lost in that storm. But it is currently valued at about 1.2K. So $1,205. Pop of 820. Again, this was actually just a promo card that came in that collection box. So that is kind of what we're looking at here. If we scroll down, you can kind of see those recent auctions here. So pretty wild to see that. Next up, we have the Shining Celebi. And this is also from that collection box. So this collection box contained a bunch of promos in it. And this was before they kind of secured them properly in containers or in the packaging. So you were really taking a gamble on how jagged the edges were, things like that. I actually lucked out with I think I bought like 2 or 3 of these boxes. I really lucked out with that first box I got. So you can see the Shining Celebi was about $800 current value, and I was able to get a PSA 10 in that, Gem Mint 10. Moving on to the next one was a Shining Ho-Ho. Now, this is the promo that comes in the Elite Trainer box. So super common card, about $300 in a Gem Mint 10. And you're going to see in my second submission, I submitted a whole bunch of these because I had lots of these. I'll go ahead and close out some of these tabs here. Next up is a Black Star promo Charizard. So this was from a Charizard GX Premium Collection. Now this got a Mint 9, so not super valuable, about $100. But this was one of the, I forget what promo box this came out of. I guess it was the Charizard GX Premium Collection. Probably around the time Burning Shadows was out. That's probably what that premium collection was from. Next up, Tapu Lele from Guardians Rising. So at the time, Tapu Lele was the best of the best to pull. It was super used in the game, and lots of people wanted this card. This card raw was several $100s. Which was crazy at that time for a non-Charizard card. You can see now in a Gem Mint 10, it's only worth $85. It's not worth a whole lot, but back then, super playable card at the time. I do remember pulling that, and this was actually probably my most memorable pull I've ever had, just because of that era and what it meant pulling that card. Next up, we've got a Tauros GX Secret Rare. Now, this got a Gem Mint 10 as well, and it's about $150 is what these are valued at today. Again, hyper rare from that set. So that was that one. Next up is going to be, I believe this is the Rainbow Rare Mewtwo. Yeah, so this is the Rainbow Rare Mewtwo from Shining Legends. So not the test tube one, just the regular hyper rare. And it's about $300. So not bad on that one. Moving up here, we've got the Full Art Raichu hyper rare as well from Shining Legends. And that's about $210. So that's going to be the Rainbow Rare Secret from Shining Legends as well. And then we've got a couple Guardian Risings secrets in here. So this one is a Full Art Enhanced Hammer. You can see only $46. This was a gold card, and it was a Gem Mint 10. So you can kind of see a lot of these gold cards don't hold their values as well, especially from like the Guardian Rising sets. Next up, we had a Max Potion. This was another one. Now this one only got an 8. So not good, and there's actually no estimates on it because there are no reported sales of this card. And there's not a lot graded. You can see there's only 62 that had a higher grade than mine. So not a lot on the grading market for that one. Next up is going to be the Nest Ball. And this was from Sun and Moon Base, I believe. And about $61. And again, a gold card from Sun and Moon Base. Not super valuable there. Next up, one of the biggest cards from that set. And this, I believe, is the Test Tube Mewtwo. It is. So I had a Gem Mint 10 in the Test Tube Mewtwo. And those are currently valued at just under $4K. So now, obviously, there's a lot of these out there. There's almost 2,600 of these, but the values have just spiked on these like crazy. So you're looking at about that 4K range for that Test Tube Mewtwo. I expect these to come back down in price a bit, but this was one of the biggest ones. This card was very difficult to pull, as well as the Shining Mew was very difficult to pull for me. Next up, we have a Ho-Oh GX from the Super Premium Collection. So this isn't the Shining one, but this is actually the full art one, because the Shining one came in the ETB. So this is the Rainbow Rare full art that came in the Super Premium Collection. It's about $50 in a Mint 9. And then we've got, the Alakazam from Fates Collide. I actually forgot about this. I used to open tons of Fates Collide packs. This is a Mint 9, $340, which is pretty high for a 9. You can see there's only 688 10s. There's 2,000, almost 2,200, actually a little over 2,200 in 9s. And last but not least from this first submission was an Ancient Mew card. Now, back then, I would go on eBay and I would buy up Ancient Mews, still sealed, for, maybe between $5 and $15. They were not expensive at all. You could get them in plenty. And so I was able to, I think I submitted a couple of these actually, and I got a Gem Mint 10. The card value on that right now is over 1.5K, which is insane to me. So those were my first submission that I did to PSA. Obviously, value on this card's pretty crazy now, considering where we were before. Now, moving on to my second submission. And that's going to be this one. And this was a submission of 50. There was a 50 card minimum on this. So this was the bulk rate. And back then, the bulk rates were only like $5 to $6 a card to get them graded. You just had a longer turnaround. And by longer turnaround, it's actually not that bad. So I submitted this on February 14th, 2018. And I got it back on April 10th, 2018. Now, I mentioned that microburst tornado that hit my house. That actually happened in June of 2018. So about, 2 months after I got back these returns, unfortunately, I lost everything. But we're going to go ahead and run through this. And you're going to see kind of a mixture in here of evolutions. You're even going to see some jungle, some original WotC jungle sets in here. Just kind of a wide variety of things. But we're going to scroll to the bottom and we're going to I'm going to skip over all these Shining Ho-Hos, but you can see these are all those Elite Trainer box promos for Shining Legends. You can see I actually pulled Gem Mint 10s out of all of these. And so those were all, right now they're about $300. Oh, had we still had those cards, we would have been looking pretty good, been able to maybe use those for trades for some other things we need. Unfortunately, that is not the hand we were dealt. So moving on, we had from Crimson Invasion. Yes, I bought quite a bit of Crimson Invasion when it came out. And this was actually kind of the last set before the storm hit. And then, I kind of went through a lot of things in life and I didn't really get back into it until 2019, 2020 timeframe. So this was a Lusamine full art trainer. Right. And so these ones, this was a Mint 9. These are only about $55. So, not too crazy on that side of things. Moving on back to Shining Legends. So we had a Pokemon Breeder full art. We actually submitted a couple of these. They both got Gem Mint 10. They're about $90 a card. We'll skip over those. We had Guzzlord GX, Secret Rare from Crimson Invasion. So this is going to be that Rainbow Rare, Guzzlord GX. And those are about $125 right now. So we actually submitted 2 of those. Both of those got Gem Mint 10s. And then we had another Ho-Oh GX we submitted. That was a Mint 9. That one is probably valued around $50. Yep, $50. And then moving on, we had a Warp Energy. So another Secret Rare gold card. And it's only about $26 in a Gem Mint 10. So you're probably going to see a pattern here. Those gold cards don't really hold value much in PSA grading. Some people like to use them playing the game, but just from a grading standpoint, not the best. Now, I rarely open Japanese boxes. However, before Shining Legends came out, I was so hyped for Shining Legends coming out that I bought a box of the Japanese set before the English set came out. And I was able to pull a Shining Mew from that set, which was my chase card for the English set as well. And got Gem Mint 10 in that. That card is about $365 now. It is basically the same Shining Mew we got in the English set, except it was in Japanese. We had that one. Moving on, we had Shining Volcanion. We got Gem Mint 10 from that. We also had a Shining Genesect. Now, these were more of the low-end Shining cards from the set. So you can see less than $100 in a Gem Mint 10 on the Shining Volcanion. And let me hop on over to the Genesect. Now, there was also another Shining Celebi and a Shining Yugioh, which we're going to talk about here in a minute. But you can see that Genesect was about $100 for the Shining Genesect. Those were actually pretty easy to pull from those sets. And I'm going to go ahead and close out some of these tabs real quick. Keep this under control. And let's talk about Shining Yugioh. So earlier I mentioned that I had 3 of those super premium collections for Shining Legends, and that the cards necessarily weren't packed that greatest. This is proof of that, right? So while we did get some Gem Mint 10s, we only got a PSA 5 out of the Shining Yugioh. But even at a 5, that card's still worth $30, which is crazy when you consider, the value of what a 5 would typically bring. And then the Shining Celebi, though, we did get a 10 in. And that's almost $800. Again, promo card from Super Premium Collection. As I mentioned, I had 3 of those Super Premium collections. Obviously, we were able to stack some cards there. Then we had the Shining Arceus and the Shining Rayquaza from those sets. Both of those got PSA 9s. Let's go ahead and open those up real quick. $30 on the Arceus and $136 on the Rayquaza. The Rayquaza was another one that was pretty easy to pull. Now, moving on, talked about it. This was my chase card from the set, and I was able to get a Gem Mint 10 out of this, and it is the Shining Mew card, and those are currently just over $600. There's about 3,000 of those in a Gem Mint 10. Shining Jirachi, this was one of the less common ones to pull, actually. And this one, I only got a 7, PSA 7, and that's only worth about $20. Obviously, not very good there. But as you can see, we had another Ancient Mew we submitted that got a Gem Mint 10. So once again, that's about a 1.5K card. Another set that I was super into was Legendary Treasures, and more importantly, the Radiant Collection. And so there was this was kind of the first set that was kind of out there where you would, it was from Black and White era. You would basically get your main cards, but then kind of in like that reverse slot, you would have a chance at getting a Radiant Collection. And there was a Mew EX in that Radiant Collection. Super iconic card. I got a Mint 9 on mine, and you can see as a 9, that card is still worth almost $900. Pretty crazy, but this was the Mew. Very iconic card. Really wish I still had that. Legendary Treasures, one of my favorite sets. They used to throw those packs in tins, and they were actually pretty easy to get. I really miss that set. Next up is a Mewtwo Holo from base set. So this is going to be the base set Holo, and I believe I pulled this fresh out of a deck, a Mewtwo deck, and I got an 8 on it, only worth about $100, but it is a base set unlimited. And then next up was a Gyarados Holo. Now, back then, you could go on eBay and you could buy base set decks, like the original starter decks, for under $100. They were pretty easy to get. And so I had gone through, and I think about $50 a deck, and I bought like the fire starter deck, the water starter deck. So we had all these various starter decks, and I had opened them and sent off the hollows for grading. So the Gyarados, which came out of the water one, $160. So not too bad there in a mint 9. And then the Machamp, obviously. So we got a mint 9. Now, all Machamps were first editions. So that was about $158 on that one. And moving on, I also had opened I think they've labeled it, I forget what they labeled it as, but there was like a big box collection that had a 2-player starter set for Pokemon base, and it also had a sealed jungle pack in it. So you had a chance of getting either a heavy or a light pack in that. There was obviously no way to weigh those boxes. They were a big box. And I was able to actually pull a Vaporeon out of that. And so we're going to take a look at the Venomoth first. At that time, I also bought some jungle packs. At that time, you could get like jungle packs for, I want to say like $35 a pack. They were not expensive at all. You could go on Troll and Toad all day long and pick up packs. So I ended up picking up a handful of packs and pulled a Venomoth Hollow. It got a PSA 8, which is about $45. And let's talk about the Vaporeon. Oh, Vaporeon, I pulled out of one of those starter sets, and I was able to get a Gem Mint 10 from a jungle card, which is crazy to me. This card's currently valued at about 3.6K. Obviously, any card that evolves from Eevee has a big fanfare to it. Unfortunately, again, lost us in the storm. Don't have it anymore, but that was really cool to go back and see that I was able to pull a 10 on a jungle card that I pulled in 2017, 2018 timeframe. It's just crazy to me. Moving on, we had a Nidoqueen Hollow. This was another one. So that one's about $100 for a mint 9. And then also a Kangaskhan Hollow. Once again, a mint 9. And that one's actually about $163. And actually, let's hop back on over there. You can see there's only 29 PSA 10s of that card. Pretty crazy. Moving on to the Entei Reverse Foil. This was a Black Star promo. Very iconic card. Everybody kind of recognizes this foil. It was kind of one of those original Black Star promos that were a reverse foil, kind of iconic, but also known for bowing. These were super easy to get back then. I got a mint 9, currently only worth about $40. There are tons of these in circulation. And then we had a Meryl. So a lot of the rest of these are going to be Black Star promos from the WotC era. We had a Meryl that got a Gem Mint 10, worth about $110 right now. And moving on, I actually bought a trio pack from a individual seller. He had one of each of the birds cards from the Black Star promo. So we had Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno. And they were all error cards. And so all 3 of these got Gem Mint 10s. And if we go ahead and pull these up, about $117. I want to say I paid, if I remember right, I paid between $25 and $30 for the 3-pack. So essentially like $10 a card is what I paid for these at that time. And they all pulled around that same price, slightly over $100 each is what the current market value on those are. So we actually just pulled that one up. Let's pull this one up. Yeah, so $117. So those were nice to see, obviously. Moving on, we had the cool Porygon Hollow. And I had a full WotC promo set. So I had all of the Black Star promos from WotC. So a lot of these are what you're going to see being submitted here. Porygon only got an 8. Cool Porygon. but about $72 on that card right now. And then moving on to, the Meowth. So these were very known for having a print line in them. And so very hard to get 10s out of these. In fact, there's only 72 PSA 10s in existence. But the 9, still pretty good, worth about $150. These were super easy to get. There's tons of them in circulation. Dragonite movie promo. So this is the WB Games. This is going to be that Dragonite that has the WB logo on it from the movie. And those are about $150 in a PSA 9. I'm not sure what a 10 is worth, but there are a lot of 10s in circulation as well. And then we had the Mewtwo movie promo as well. Go ahead and pull that one up. And that one's about $65 in a mint 9. And that's going to be this promo here. And moving on, we had some fossil cards as well. So I mentioned about buying Jungle. It was also easy to get some fossil packs. So we have 2 holos here. We've got a Muck and a Lapras. Both of those pulling mint 9s. So that Muck is only worth about $36. And if we take a look at the Lapras, that was worth about $125 right now. So moving on to base 2. So base set 2, we actually had a Wigglytuff holo and an 8. And this one is about $30. So nothing too crazy there. But then we had one Neo Genesis card we submitted. I believe I actually pulled this from a Neo Genesis deck. So back when I was buying those base set decks, I came across a one from Neo Genesis, which was crazy to me. So I went ahead and bought it, sent this off. It got an 8, which is about $53. Next is Evolutions. So these are kind of the last cards from the submission. I was super big into XY Evolutions as well. At this time, Evolutions was super overprinted, and you could buy booster boxes for like $80 all day long. In fact, on my gaming YouTube channel, I ran a Christmas special where I just opened booster boxes because they were super easy to get. You can go on Amazon, get it for $80. Some of the resellers were selling them at a loss. Like they were paying like 80, or I want to say they were paying like $75 or so from the distributors and selling them for like $70. For the most part, they were taking losses on them just to kind of move them because they were overprinted like crazy. So we did send one of each Charizard in from that set. So let's start with the Charizard holo, everybody's favorite from that set. This was kind of that reprint of the base set holo in the Evolution set. We got a mint 9 that's currently about $130. And the original Mega line was in XY. So we had a Mega Charizard EX, then we had a full art Mega Charizard EX, and then we had a regular Charizard EX. So let's take a look at the regular EX first. And that one in a mint 9 is about $44. And then the regular, or the Mega EX, not the full art, about $60 and an 8. And last but not least, we have that full art Mega Charizard EX in a 9. That one pulled actually about $200 right now in a 9. So pretty crazy given how easy these packs, or how easy these booster boxes were to get. You can actually see there's over 12,000 of these cards in a PSA 10. There's over 16,000 of this one in a PSA 10. Or sorry, this one includes 9s and 10s. And then if we go to the holo, the super popular one, there's only about 600 that have PSA 10s. However, there's over 23,000 with PSA 9s, which is just insane to me. So those were kind of those first 2 submissions that I did back in 2017, 2018. I did this video just to kind of show you guys, you know, if you do send cards off to get graded and you hold them, those values are just going to go up, especially if you have good grades. They're definitely just probably going to appreciate over time. You know, I know PSA has increased their prices and their return times lately. A lot of people are looking to grade them and flip them. But honestly, if you can hold them, you can do really well in the long term, and maybe just use it as trade bait. You know, you don't necessarily need to sell them for a profit. Maybe you're trying to complete, you know, a newer set in a couple years, and somebody was looking for that card because they're a PSA or a graded card collector. So I just wanted to put this out here and show you guys, like, yes, I don't have any of these cards anymore. Unfortunately, I did lose them. Obviously, there were reimbursements done through the insurance company, all of that through the damages. But had I held these, it would have been really nice. And honestly, I would have kept all of these cards most likely because I'm massive Shining Legends collector. Obviously, prices through these boxes right now, super through the roof. I'm hoping they come down a little bit so I can at least buy some singles. I would like to buy some sealed packs just to open them, just for that nostalgic effect. You know, maybe in a year or two, if we get a down market, I will definitely do that. And kind of moving on with this adventure is I did back in 2020, when I started collecting again, started getting into Yu-Gi-Oh! Speed Duel. I had a PSA membership again, did the 15 card submission, then did another bulk submission, had a bunch of good cards. Life happened, obviously. I ended up selling off a bunch of those in like the 2021, 2022 timeframe. But I'm now kind of revisiting that and looking to accumulate a full Speed Duel set again, like the entire library of the Speed Duel line. That's actually my big chase right now. And then I'm also trying to reaccumulate some of the Pokemon cards. And on the Pokemon side, I only focus on the special sets. And that's kind of like where my heart comes from with Shining Legends. So we're talking Shining Legends, Hidden Fates, Generations, Celebrations. If we talk about modern, we're talking Black Bolt White Flare, Shrouded Fable, Shining Fates, Paldean Fates, 151. Basically, those sets that they're not released in booster boxes, but they're released through ETBs, through collection boxes, those types of things, those smaller sets, those are what I like to collect. I really like Shining Legends because it was only 78 cards plus some secrets, or that actually included the secrets, I believe. So 78 card set, really like that. Even dating back to WotC, like Jungle, 64 cards. Like, I really like sub 100 card sets for collecting. I'm not a big fan of having to collect, 300 cards in a set. And so I'm really restrictive when I do on the Pokemon side, and super restrictive also on what I do on the Yu-Gi-Oh side. Big into Speed Duels, obviously. And then the 25th anniversary reprints of Legend of Blue Eyes, Metal Raiders, Spell Roller, Invasion of Chaos, Pharaoh's Servant, Dark Crisis. Those sets, I'm trying to accumulate those. And I've got Retro Pack 1, Retro Pack 2, both those reprints. I've got those sets. I've got recently they re-released the Legendary Collection Kaiba, the Mega Packs. I actually have a full set of the re-release already. So still kind of working on reamassing those collections. And over time, I will send these off to get graded to hold in my collection. But I'm also kind of, from my past experience, what we've witnessed here from this video, I'm also taking, anytime I pull higher end duplicates or what I feel are decent duplicates, I'm setting those aside in separate containers with the plan to send those off, get those graded, with the expectation that in the future, I may use those as trade bait for trading into other cards that I may want, right? Or maybe recouping some funds. Maybe a new set comes out, prices through the roof, or maybe I have the opportunity to buy some Shining Legends, but it's a couple $1,000s, don't really have funds for it. Maybe I can use those cards either as trading bait or sell them off in order to, get some of that nostalgic factor back. So that's it for this video. Just wanted to show you guys kind of what what I've gone through as far as what I lost, what the values would have been today. But more importantly, just kind of showing you that true value of getting cards graded, getting them sealed and preserved, in my honest opinion, is the best use for grading. It's not necessarily for flipping. It's actually for preserving the cards. But if you do hold them, there's obviously a value appreciation that happens over time.